going to lead you through the next 60 minutes talking about kind of career development. Please feel free to kind of, jump in with questions, thoughts. I can't see anyone. This is the first time I'm facilitating on Zoom, so it's really interesting that I can't see people. But I'm sure in the background, the superb team will pick everything up. So let's kick off and let's talk about career development. So I think I'd like to start off by asking if anybody wants to kind of talk a little bit about kind of what might career mean to you. Think about that. What does a career mean to you? How do you apply for jobs? Would anyone like to add anything here? Would anyone like to say kind of what kind of motivates them to go for jobs? Everyone's quiet. So I guess it's about thinking about kind of what motivates you to apply for jobs. What's the push? What's kind of urging you on a little bit? And take a moment to think about how many of you have applied for roles that you didn't really want to do. They weren't really something that you were very interested in, but you saw it as a good career move. So you went for the role. Take a moment to think about that. And then think about how many of you have applied for roles that, again, you didn't really want to do. It wasn't something that you were really interested or passionate in, but it was on promotion. So you went for that as well. And then think about how many of you follow your passion when you're applying for roles as well. So what is it that kind of, motivates you? What's the areas that you think that's the thing I want to do? That's where I want to work. So thinking about those kind of steps in your career and in your kind of, in your kind of employment history, what's been your motivator? What's pushed you? What's kind of enthused you? What's been the reasons behind, why you've applied for certain roles? So thinking about some of those things will hopefully help as we go through this workshop as well. So let's think about, and normally where I can see people when we're doing these sessions, we can have a bit of a conversation, but obviously it's much harder like this. So I ask you obviously to think about for yourselves, how did you get here? So in the kind of current role you're in, how did you get to that role? What were the steps that you took? What is it that you needed to do in order to get there? And then think about, was it planned? Did you intentionally come into the role that you are currently in? Did you think that's the one that I want to be in? I'm definitely going to apply for this because that's my dream role. And then think back to 5 years ago. Excuse me. Is this where you pictured yourself 5 years ago? So thinking about the role that you're currently sitting in, the job that you're currently doing. If you talk to yourself 5 years ago, look back at that 5 year ago person, would you say that this is where you saw yourself? And if not, why are you where you are, or what brought you to where you are at this point? So I think always before you start looking at kind of career development and where you want to go, it's always interesting to kind of look back first as well. Look back at that journey. How did you come to where you were? What were the instigators? What were the motivators? What pushed you? What were the things that kind of happened in your life that kind of brought you to this point? And if they're all good things, then great, let's carry on with them. But if there were not so good things, then what can we do then in terms of thinking about the next steps in our career? So how do you judge success when it comes to your career? Is a question that I always ask people that come along to this webinar. And normally it's quite an animated conversation with people saying, oh, promotion, money, all sorts of things. Some people say having a good work-life balance, that's success for me. Everybody's idea of success is different. Everybody's definition is different. So you need to think about, what does success in my career feel like to me? And most of us, what we tend to do is associate our career development with climbing the professional ladder. That's what success looks like for a lot of people. So what I want to do as part of this session is help people reframe that thought. And instead of looking at it as you're looking at your career as a ladder, but to look at it as a path, as a journey, so to speak, because very few of us in our career history, see a career that goes up all the time. We don't always go up. We take side steps. We can go on a detour. Lots of different things happen in our life. So rather than kind of seeing it as a career path that's constantly going up, we want to look at it as a journey, and let's explore it. Let's really look around. Let's open ourselves up to the opportunities that there are available to us as well as we go on that. So learning to think about career development as a rewarding and enriching experience will help you to focus a lot more on your kind of professional satisfaction and personal happiness, and your aspirations, as opposed to more that kind of vertical achievement. The ladder-based approach also has a very narrow vision in terms of your own self-assessment of your potential. But I think the kind of biggest limiting factor of all to the career ladder is using this as a measure of success in life, because there's many different things to success. There's many flavors of success. So just being in a continuous job, just being in a job that you love, that you enjoy waking up to, having a really great work-life balance. You know, at the moment, people are juggling so many things. So it depends, just thinking about in your mind, what would success look like to you? What would a successful career look like to you when you look back? And sometimes we have a vision. We have, this is the role I want. This is where I want to be. And we can become quite focused and tunnel vision, and then not see opportunities that might come up around. So again, what I always kind of urge people to do is to think about kind of broadening those horizons a little bit, because sometimes you might find that you're going to change jobs a few times in order to discover your true potential. Sometimes you might have a few kind of, interesting opportunities come up that completely take you off that path, but it's great because it will help you build different skills. And then sometimes you're going to go really fast down that road and sometimes slow down. So it all really depends on how much you open yourself up. I'm not suggesting that you job hop, so like from one job to the other, but look at those opportunities. Don't cut yourself off from opportunities when they come knocking, and open yourselves up to different ways of learning things and different ways of being able to expand your skills. So by seeing your career as a journey, it still means that you have a purpose and a goal, but you're measuring success in a kind of entirely different way, and hopefully you're experiencing a little bit of fun along the way as well. So if we think of our career as a journey, then we need a map to kind of set out what that journey looks like. You know, we need a little bit of a sat nav. We need something to guide us. And while no two career map will ever be the same, even if you're going for the same roles and same kind of career direction, everyone's career map will be different. Everyone's will have different things. However, there's going to be a few fundamental key ingredients that each and every career map should have. The first of those should be your starting point. So where exactly are you starting from? Get a really clear picture of your current role. What is it that you're doing now? What are your key skills? What is your knowledge? What do you bring to that role? So really kind of have a really good inward look and an honest look to find out kind of where you really are now. And then thinking about where you want to go to. What's the destination? What's the dream? Where are you heading? This could be a specific role. So I want to be president of this company in like 3 years. Or it could just be a much more broader career direction. I'd love to work in finance. I'd love to work in human resources. So being very clear about what's my destination as well. Where do I want to go? And then what are the stop-off points along this journey? So what are the kind of key roles that you might need to do along the way in order to get you to that destination? Those key opportunities that you might need to take up in order to prepare you and help you for that kind of final destination. And the connecting routes are those kind of thinking about how fast and quickly you want to travel. You know, sometimes people can be just head down, very career focused, and just kind of need to get to that and kind of obliterate everything along the way. So really think about kind of how fast am I going to travel down this road? Where are the kind of key promotions that I want to do? Where are the opportunities where I can kind of take a sidestep? Sometimes we could be at a certain level in an organization and think, I need promotion, I want promotion. But an opportunity comes up to do a sidestep, and it could allow us to gain different skills and become much more well-rounded. So not kind of shying away from those opportunities and not kind of focusing on, but no, this is what I want, I just want the promotion. So being open to those connecting routes. And then thinking about your food and your fuel as well. So what do you need for this journey? So what are the kind of learning and development activities that you need? What training will you need? What qualifications might you need? What are the experiences that you need to have? and importantly as well, the kind of relationships that you need to develop and cultivate along the way. That's really critical, because developing a network and using that network is really important in terms of planning your career and getting that support. And then finally, it's your traveling companion. So who's going to support you on this career journey? Who are you going to ask for help from? Who's going to steer you and guide you? This could be a current manager, it could be a friend, a family member, a mentor, a coach, a partner, anybody who's going to be there as well to kind of hold you to account a little bit and kind of push you and urge you, and maybe even kind of boost you when you're feeling a bit low and think, I can't do this. So these are the kind of key ingredients for any career map before you even start thinking about, kind of going for this promotion or going for that role. It's doing a real good stock take. Even think about before you go shopping. You always look to see, right, what am I missing in my cupboard? What's missing in my fridge? What do I need? And it's the same when you're planning your career as well. If this is where I want to go, what's my skill gap? What do I need? Where am I now? What do I have now? And then how do I develop that? How do I build that? How do I bridge the gap from where I am now to where I want to be? So again, as I've just said, it's all about knowing yourself. So looking at the things that you're good at, discovering what is important.
Soley,
yes.
Sorry for the interruption. The interpreter is asking if you can go slower. So he okay, please.
Yep, I will try. So when you're planning your career, you need to look at is that better? When you're planning your career, you need to look at what's important to you. And as I said before, where you are in your career path. There's no point in applying for a role in finance, for example, if you don't enjoy finance. There's no point in applying for a role in sales if you're not really good at selling anything. So really important, as we said, to kind of really discover who you are, what are your skills, what's important to you, and again, identifying what stage you're at. And this is where also feedback is really important too. You need to really analyze yourself and get an honest breakdown of your skills, your experience, your wants and your drivers. And you need to analyze each part of your skills base as well, so that you can complete a catalogue of your skills, so to speak. So to also be happy at work, you need to know what values, needs and constraints you have and what you are prepared to compromise on, because that's really important too. Where will you think, okay, this isn't great, but I'm going to do it? But then where will you think, no, this is a hard line for me. I won't compromise on this. I won't work in that kind of organization. So it's important to think about those things as well. We also need to consider our motivators. What is it that's pushing you along this journey? For some people, it's money. For some people, it's having, technical mastery, or somebody else will want autonomy. Whatever it is, it's really important to kind of think about that. What are your motivators? And then look for roles, organizations that might help to fulfill some of those motivators. And part of getting to know yourself is obtaining feedback, which is really important when it comes to kind of understanding yourself. We have a certain understanding of who we are, what we do, what we're good at. But feedback is absolutely critical. And we need to be open to that, because as individuals, we each have kind of these 4 quadrants within ourselves. And one of those quadrants is that blind spot. We each have a blind spot, which is that part of you that you don't know about yourself, but others can see about you. So you might be really good at presenting and facilitating, but you don't believe that, you don't see that. But others will say, wow, you're so great at that. Brilliant, you're a natural. So feedback is absolutely critical in helping you do a really good analysis of where your skills are, where your strengths are, or where are the things that you need to develop as well. Normally at this point, when I'm delivering this workshop in our organization, I would ask people to put one word in the chat to describe how you feel about your current role. Are you excited? Are you comfortable? Are you bored? Are you stagnant? How are you feeling? Hopeful, bored, depressed? What is that feeling? And we tend to kind of have a bit of a conversation about those. And those conversations can be quite telling. Those words can be quite telling, because sometimes it's the first time someone has actually voiced that. So if you were to write it in the chat now, what would that word be? What one word would describe how you feel about your current role? Our values will change at different stages, in our lives. So, what might be important for you now might not be important for you in a year's time as well. So those things evolve just as we do as well, as kind of things change in our life. But the most important thing is to be honest and open with yourself, and really think about, I want to work in this area, but am I really cut out for that? Yes, I know it's kind of great opportunities and I'll earn lots of money, but is that really for me? Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to sacrifice my family life or my social life to work here? So being very, very honest with ourselves and thinking about why we're claiming to want the things that we want as well. Thinking about really, are you ready for that promotion? Do you really want to work in that particular area? Each of us is good at something and less good at other things. And some things we can't do at all. Personally, I would be terrible in a finance role. It would never, we would never gel together, and I would fail miserably. So I think it's about getting real with yourself and being really honest with yourself and really understanding kind of where your strengths and where your weaknesses lie as well. So moving on, we need to think about then, how do we bring this together? So we've sat down, we've thought about our skills, we've thought about where we are, where we want to go. We've done a bit of a career plan, we've got some feedback. We've looked at the kind of bridge in terms of, here I am, here's where I want to be, these are the things that I want to do. But then how do we bring it all together? We need to consider all of this. And there's a very interesting questionnaire developed by Edgar Schein, which helps to tell us what your career anchor is. What is it that shapes you as an individual in terms of your personal identity and your self-image, in terms of kind of your professional life? So I'm very happy to share that after the session as well. I can share it with the network and they can forward it on to everyone. So it's bringing that all together. And another thing, a bonus, a benefit of getting to know yourself and understanding your strengths as well, and the things that you need to develop, is that once you know yourself, then it becomes much easier to sell yourself to potential employers. You may not have all the skills required for a specific job you want, but instead of focusing on what you lack, focus on what you can contribute to that role, what you can bring to the role instead. I might not be able to have X, but I can do this, and this is really critical, and I can learn this one on the job. So I would always urge people not to dwell on the things that they can't do and focus on those things that they don't have, but instead kind of look at those things that they can bring. What are those things that they can bring to the role? It's essential to note that no employer will hire you based on the things you do not know or have. They don't know those things. So as such, in order to make your dream of changing the job come true, be sure to identify your specific skills and knowledge that can contribute to the new position. It's selling yourself, and feel empowered to do that. And when you go to those job interviews, really thinking about, do I want to work here? Why this role? Why this company? Why do I want to work there? And then when it comes to interviews as well, most of us always tend to feel very nervous. I know I do, nervous, scared, hands shaking, can't swallow, face goes red. And we're always telling ourselves to calm down. Let's calm down. But maybe instead of telling ourselves that, we reframe that instead and try to channel that nervous energy into excitement. I'm excited for this interview. I'm excited for this opportunity. I'm excited I might be able to get this role and work in this organization. And maybe by reframing that, we can then switch the mindset that we're in, and hopefully it will help to reduce the anxiety and improve our performance even when it comes to the interview. So how do we overcome barriers to career success? Because there always is, and as women in particular, we still face those challenges, we still face those barriers, wherever we go. And there's no easy methods. I wish there was. There isn't anything that we can do in terms of click our fingers and it's all gone. But if you are serious about really taking hold of your career and having long-term career success, there are certain kind of things that we can do to help support that. One of the key things is about believing in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, who will? So you need to really go in there believing in yourself that you can do this job. I've got this. It's about building really strong professional, personal relationships. Networking is critical. Somebody that you worked with maybe 3 years ago could then be working in an organization that you would love to work in, and connecting with those people. And there's lots of social media sites now like LinkedIn and other things that you can stay connected to people, obviously, and tap into those relationships as well. Challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone. We all swim in our little comfort pool, and it's nice and it's comfortable and we like it and we feel safe there. But if we want to stretch, or if we want to do more, then we need to step out, absolutely. And then make sure that you define yourself. And that's, in a sense, it's about defining your personal, professional brand. What are your unique individual selling points? How are you going to build a reputation across the field that you're interested in? So thinking about all those things as well. What's your brand? What are you bringing to this organization and to this role? So thinking again about some of those barriers, some of these are perceived barriers. Some of these are obstacles, constraints that might exist between, your current state and your preferred state. So your current role and maybe your ideal role. And then think about what those can be. So take some time, maybe after this session, to think about those. So what are the barriers that are located within yourself? What are the things that you might be doing that maybe you don't realize that is blocking your success, that is blocking you from going for that role? Is it your confidence? What's going on? Is it lack of self-belief? What's happening in that space? What are the things that are located in your environment, and located in others? So in your environment, what's happening around you? Is it kind of family life that's preventing you? Is it something else? What's going on in that space? And in others, what are the things that in other people that might be bringing you down a little bit and preventing you from moving on? What's getting in your way? What are the challenges that you're facing? But then also thinking about where are the supports? Where's the toolkit that you have that will support you? So important to kind of think about those, and then how you might break those barriers down, how you can move on. A lot of the time, many of the barriers that we put up are put up by ourselves, from us, because we don't believe in ourselves. We think we can't do this. We need to do more. So we are technically our own worst enemy most times. So how do we then believe in ourselves more? What is it that we need to do? How do we step into that space? A lot of the time, as women in particular, we suffer from imposter syndrome. I shouldn't be here in this role. I shouldn't be doing this. Interestingly, though, research shows that people who feel imposter syndrome are actually feeling that way because they're being successful at what they're doing. They're actually achieving things. And the more you do and the more you achieve, the more you think, oh my God, this is happening by luck. Oh my God, how am I doing this? One day they're going to find out that I'm just a complete fake. So the more successful you are, the more that imposter syndrome can come in. And it's just about reminding yourself, I'm here and doing this because I can. And I'm good at this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. So having a little bit of self-talk and a pep talk is always helpful. Just looking in the mirror and just talking to yourself, I find always helps.
One question, Soley, one question.
Yes.
Can you come back to the other slide?
Of course.
Okay. So do you do this exercise that I think that is very helpful to see where are and what are those barriers, but also located in yourself, in your environment, in others. Do you do also with the positive things, with the same exercise, but see what are the things on me, located on myself, that can help me to go the next step? What are the things of the possibilities that I have in the environment? how the others can help me. So do you do this also for the pros and not only for the barriers?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good point, Beatrice. Thank you for raising that. What we tend to do is, as part of the workshop when we're delivering this in our organization, is looking at the barriers and then look at, okay, how do we kind of then work through, how do we overcome them? So, and then kind of do a, in two ways. So these are the things that are located in myself, but also these are the skills that I've got in myself. And then do they really match? So we do a little bit of that when we have time in these sessions too. So really good. I think if people want to take some time out afterwards to kind of think about that, these are the barriers. Once you identify the skills that you have, and then you've identified the barriers in yourself, it might be then worth looking at seeing, oh, I've put down, lack of confidence as a barrier, but actually I'm really confident, I've said, when I'm doing this or this. So sometimes just seeing it written in black and white can be really helpful, because a lot of this tends to be in our heads. Yeah. So when you write them down, I think it can bring it to life a little bit more. And sometimes you can have that light bulb moment and think, wow, it's not as bad as I thought it was. I do bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, I think so. For me, for example, it's very helpful when I write the things and I put, for example, pros, cons. So it helps me to think about all the forest. No, when I write, I think paper. So, for example, when I think that that I am a lawyer. I practice law in my private law firm in Argentina for 20 years. When I moved to Chicago 8 years ago, after a few months, I started to work as a manager of a big division of the Department of Labor. For me, this was totally new. And my worst barrier was myself, because I say, I don't know if I can be a manager. I don't know if I can manage more than 30 people that are on the union. I never had employees in the union. I always had my own employees. I was able to fire them. Here, no, it was a big, huge bureaucracy to try to fire somebody, or for example, when we wanted to improve the performance, were a lot of steps and obstacles. So, and at that moment, what helped me a lot was what they saw, what the other people, my supervisors, saw about me, and helped in my own. I'm sorry, I don't have the camera. In my own confidence, they say, "You're doing great. For example, my evaluations were fantastic, and this was a huge surprise for me, because always I say, I don't have the skills for this role because I didn't practice before. But then I realized that all my experience helped me to shape a new set of skills to manage and to navigate my new position. But at that moment, what I needed was the eyes of the other people that say, do this. And this helped me, and then I felt very comfortable. But for me, I had like 1 year that was navigating this with a lot of doubts. Say, really, can I do that? So, and helped me a lot when in one moment I take notes and I say, can do this, I am this, I am not so good. How can I improve? Etc. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Beatrice. Yeah, self-doubt is a big barrier, obviously, but also I think another thing is that lack of belief in the good feedback. We tend to really easily believe the kind of development feedback that we get. So, oh, these are the things that you need to work on. Or when people say, constructive criticism, which is a phrase that I don't like at all. But actually, when people give us that really great kind of recognition feedback, this is what you're really good at, this is what you bring to the table, this is when you shine. We tend to not be comfortable in hearing that. We tend to think, oh no, that's not me. No, I can't believe that. And that's a big barrier as well. So we should believe the good stuff. We should believe when people are saying, you do this really well. You're a natural at this. This is one of your strengths. And stop doubting that, because others are seeing that around us and telling us. So we should be definitely open to that and believing that, and not think, oh God, no, I'm not good at that. Actually, that was just by luck that went well. Definitely not me. And I think we tend to do that a lot, especially as women. I think we tend to do that. So embrace that. And if somebody is telling you good things, giving you that really great feedback, just say thank you. Tell me more. That's what I always tell people when they come on our feedback workshops. Just say thank you and tell me more, and listen to the good stuff, because it's all valuable and it's all beneficial, helping you to really build a good picture of yourself. So then, thinking about conversations, career conversations, some of us struggle to have these types of conversations with our line managers or with the people that we line manage as well. How do I start these conversations? None of us are career experts, but how do I have this? And essentially, a career conversation is an honest and a really open discussion between the employee, the manager, and the manager is there to support the employee to develop their career goals and plans, and hopefully achieving something that's mutually beneficial to each party, really. It isn't a kind of one-off conversation. It should be a series of development conversations, and it allows the employee to feel very valued. And I think what I always tend to tell the managers when they come on this workshop in our organization is, should be having these conversations on a regular basis, allowing people to talk. But as managers, you shouldn't be guiding people to where they should be going. A career is something very personal. Somebody might be very good at something, but might not like doing it. So I could be very good at finance. I'm not, but I could be, but I don't like doing it. I don't want a career in it, but I might be naturally kind of, adept at it, but I don't want to do it. So not to try to steer people, allow people to really kind of explore what they might be wanting to do next in their career, and being very open. And I always tell people to take charge of these conversations. As an employee, don't wait for your manager to instigate. Don't wait for your manager to guide you. Take charge. It's your career. You need to think about where you want to go. This is a two-way conversation. It's about giving you some space and time to reflect and, consider your skills and experience, what potential you have to grow, either within your current role or any other future aspirations you might have. But it's not a manager's role to develop those career goals for you. And what I always tell managers as well is to adopt a career coaching approach. And in a minute, I'm going to share a slide on that kind of coaching element and how that works as well. But essentially, if we support individuals through coaching conversations, it helps people feel more motivated, more energized. It allows better insights into ourselves, especially if as managers you're giving feedback. It's so, so valuable to give that feedback and to give it in the best way possible as well. At this point, again, we'd have a bit of a discussion about how many of you have had career conversations with your managers. Take a moment to think. If you haven't had one, what's stopping you? If you did have one, how did that go? How did you feel about that conversation? Were you on the same page? Did you both feel the same way? What did you think? It's really difficult to sometimes open up on these things because it's quite sensitive. So just kind of being very open and honest about this is where I'd like to be, this is where I'd like to go, and getting kind of a sense of where your manager sees you as well. So essentially, we know that, people's happiness and engagement is really critical to an organization's success. So while we want to obviously, keep our good people, we obviously also want to see them grow and thrive and move on as well. So how to have that conversation? I always encourage people to use the kind of GROW model. This is a really kind of a great structure, great framework to be able to have those good conversations by asking open questions. Many of you might have seen the GROW model before. It's been around for a long time. We use it in coaching a lot, but actually it can also be used as a leadership tool, a management tool. And, you know, managers can use this to have conversations, but also you can use it for yourself in terms of thinking about, you know, where you want to go. So essentially here, what we want to do is define what the goal is. Where do you see yourself? Where would you like to be? Where would you like to work? And then the reality is here, okay, what's happening now? What's your understanding of your current role now? What do you enjoy about your role now? Do you feel challenged in your current role? Do you feel stretched? What would make it more challenging? So opening up for those conversations. And then we want to explore the options. So what could you do? We want lots of options here, no matter how kind of, you know, crazy they might be. You know, what can you do now to further your skills? What stretching opportunities could we provide you in order to help you develop those skills that you need? And then ultimately, you want to, when we look at the way forward, it's about establishing that kind of timeline. So what are you going to do now? What are the achievable steps? What are you going to do by when? What resources would be helpful to you? What skills do you need to get there? So this is a really great way to structure some of those kind of career conversations as well. And it can feel a bit challenging at first to kind of use this structure, and I'm very happy to share some questions that can kind of sit under these as well, because some of you might be managers in an organization and you want to support your employees in terms of their career development, but struggling to think about how do you guide them. You might have a certain view of an individual and they have a certain view of themselves. So how do you bring those two views together? How do you, they're coming with their story of themselves, you're coming with your story of this person. How do you create that third story? How do you bring it together to make something that's kind of mutually acceptable to both of you? I wanted to very quickly as well, before we kind of close on the session, to touch on ambition as well. I think there's always this stigma around ambition a little bit. And what I mean here when I say low or high ambition is sometimes some people, depending on where they are in their current situation, their current life, their ambition might not be high. And what I mean by that, that you could be a new parent, you could be studying, you could be doing something else. And right now, you're not interested in another role or promotion or progressing in any shape or form. So because of that, you are quite content to kind of carry on where you are, you're happy. And what we don't want then is managers to think, oh, that person has no ambition, they just want to be where they are. We want to make sure that we have a conversation to think, okay, right now, you're not keen to move on, even though you're in a highly skilled role, you know, and you're happy where you are, you're not keen to move on, but maybe in 6 months' time, the situation could change. So it's about going back to individuals and talking to them. How are things now? What's going on for you now in your life? How are you feeling now? And thinking about then how, if this person would like to move on or not. There are people even who are in really highly skilled roles who are very happy where they are. They've learned the skills that they need. They're happy in their job. They don't want any more responsibilities. They don't want to climb the corporate ladder. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. We need to be accepting of that as well. They have embraced what they class as their career success. They've got their balance. They've found their happiness. And we need to understand that and appreciate that. That's really, really important. And just because someone doesn't want to move on now because of certain things that are going on in their life right now, doesn't mean that we don't continue to motivate those people or give them stretching objectives or stretching work or stretching challenges as well. So we just need to make sure, I think, as well, you know, when we kind of, if we have these type of people on our teams, that we're giving them just as much opportunities as well, because that's really important. Ultimately, it's all about kind of being loyal and supporting, and how you can help that person get through maybe what they're currently going through. So what's next for you? Well, I have a toolkit that I can share with you all after this session as well. I'm very happy to send that to the network as well to circulate. And that's a little bit of a toolkit to help you work through some of these things, to write them down, a bit of an opportunity to reflect, because I think sometimes we don't tend to reflect on these things. We tend to just jump at things and kind of move at pace. Life is moving so fast and we tend to kind of get caught up. So taking the time to reflect, where am I? What am I doing now? Why am I here? Oh, I'm so glad I'm here. Where do I want to go to next? Well, this is my last stop. I'm happy here. So that hopefully that toolkit will help you work through some of those things a little bit. I will also share the Edgar Schein questionnaire, so do take some time to fill that in as well if you want to, and that will help establish what your career anchor is. And then, essentially, excuse me, essentially it's now about really understanding who you are, what you're bringing to the table, and then looking at that gap of kind of where you want to be, and then how do you fill that gap. So minding that gap, what is it that you need to do in terms of moving from where you are now to where you want to be? What is that? For those types of things, you can use them. Maybe you might want to get yourself a mentor, a coach, and to help you unpick some of those things. I should also kind of come to this with a little bit of a warning as well, to say that planning is really important. Of course it is. It's great to plan. And then life happens. We all know that. And not everything turns out as we kind of plan, as we expected. Timescales might slip, opportunities may come up that you didn't anticipate. You may change your mind about going down a particular route, or just generally other obstacles might arise. And managing these changes and setbacks well will require you to remain flexible and be open to opportunities. Be prepared to adjust your plans and goals as you go along. This isn't different from any other kind of plan that you might make with work. If you're in project planning, you know that you can plan, you can put milestones and risks, and things slip. And a career plan is just the same as well. So your ability to be truly successful as well is to ensure that you're flexible and that you can adapt, but also will again come down to that kind of belief in yourself, that professional brand that you create, how you're going to sell yourself and market yourself as well, which is really, really important. And that's really, really key when you go into a job interview in particular. It's about what I look for when I'm recruiting someone, for example, is the passion they come to me. They might not be the best person in terms of the skills or the knowledge, but I can sense that passion in them. They really want to do this job. I can see a fire in them. And I think that's what's important as well. Employers want to see not just a kind of a line of people coming through, a stereotype coming through, but someone who comes through and they feel this person wants to work in my company. This person wants to work with me. And that's what needs to come across. That's the best thing. What you're bringing to that table. What are your unique selling points, your unique skills that you're bringing? You might not have everything that they want, but you've got the passion and the drive, and that's the key thing. So that's the end of my presentation. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. It's